I have a very blingy gold envelope to open. And I think I know what's inside, or hope I know what's inside. Let's have a look. Oh, sweeties. Sweeties are always good. Sorry. Right. This is, as you've probably figured out, a new frame, which is from Halo Rc, which is a very small UK frame designer, and I've been waiting for this frame for quite a while. So let's have a look and see what we get. This is basically the Nemesis race frame, which is a 5-inch frame. So let's have a look. So let's see what we get. So that looks like a bottom or mid plate, top plate, some sort of 3D part, camera pod, antenna mount. In this case I've chosen the Axi. Screws and standoffs. Thank you, Halo Rc. When I was discussing this frame with him, I really wanted the TPU to be in orange, because obviously the channel's copper top FPV, and orange wasn't the colour he had, but he said he'd sort me out with some orange standoffs, and thanks for that, he has. What have we got there? Some nuts and a canopy. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, it feels really sturdy as well. God, that's a sexy bit of 3D printing. And then it looks like I have got a whole host of arms. Now you'll see when I build this up that this frame is a modular frame, and you can get it in tons of different configurations. So the frame itself comes with 5-inch arms, and I've chosen the skinny ones. It also comes with much wider, beefier ones. But when, a long time ago, or it feels like quite a long time ago, I was talking to Chris at Halo Rc about my 3-inch GoPro project, and when this came to be sent out, he'd designed and made some prototype 3-inch arms, which he's also kindly sent. And we've also got 4-inch arms. Are they? Yeah. And they're both, yeah, the 3 and 4-inch arms are both made for the common 1300 or 1400 series motors, so 1407s, 1408s, 1306s, etc. Now the arms themselves on this frame mount in a really good way. If I just show you, if I can remember from the pictures how it went. So the arms on this frame have been designed to interlock together. So as you can see, if I can line them up, they basically all interlock perfectly together, and then the plates sandwich them. So this, I think, is the bottom plate, and then this plate, so they would kind of go over like that. So you're going to get a really strong arm structure, and as you can see, this is a True X frame. So as per usual, what I'll do is I'll put it all together and we'll have a look. But as I said, I'm really excited about this, and I'll talk about why I think this is a really clever idea, and the options you have to go with it. Right, so I've put the first part of this frame together, or should I say the basic part of this frame together, and let's just have a quick look, and then we'll go over some of the other different configurations we need. So just to start off, as I touched on, Halo Rc is a British, small British company, and their first frame, the Halo Rc Archon, was a really nice freestyle frame, which has gotten really good reviews. And that one was produced via Armaton Productions, I think. And obviously those carbon parts were shipped back to Chris in the UK, who assembled them as per his design, etc. This one is designed and manufactured entirely in the UK, and he's found a local carbon supplier. So what we've got here is basically a lightweight race frame. So we've got 5-inch arms, True X, and as I said before, the arms interlock, so you get really stiff arms without any wiggle. And essentially this bottom plate just sandwiches them together, and then you've got this mid plate with press nuts, and you simply screw up and through. You've got two bolts on either arm with 2.5mm heads, and obviously one goes into the press nuts and the other one just runs up into the standoffs. And I've chosen my one with the full micro protection 3D mount, because on micro cameras I'm always busting the locking nuts for the focus, and that's really a delicate part of a micro camera. So I wanted full protection on my frame, and as you can see, we've got this really cool 3D printed mount. And the whole beauty of this frame is that it comes in tons of different configurations. So there are loads of different 3D printed mounts, ranging from very small ones, light ones, to full ones like this, for all sorts of different cameras. Vice versa, if we swing round to the back, I've chosen the Axi Antenna Mount. And again, you can choose whatever mounts you want. There's one for SMA, for whip antennas, you name it, there's a 3D print for it. And once you buy the frame, all these 3D print files are also available for you to use as well. I think Chris is also teaming up with Multi-Rotor Spares in the UK, and you'll be able to buy the already printed 3D parts via Halo Rc and via Multi-Rotor Spares. And the benefit of buying via Multi-Rotor Spares is they'll do a much bigger range of colours. I think Chris is limited to four colours on his setup. But essentially we've got 4mm arms. As I said, I've chosen the skinny arms on mine to make it a little bit lighter. You can go for much thicker arms. We've got a 2mm top plate and a 1.5mm mid and bottom plate, and the whole thing feels rock solid. Now, the true nature of this frame is it's entirely modular. So you can see at the moment I've got the battery strap mounted toilet tank style for a top mounted battery. You can also run the battery strap on the bottom, and it comes with this rather nifty 3D print, which basically just snaps into place here, if I can get it in, and acts as a battery pad. But also, when you run your battery strap round and under your flight controller, because it grips around the side of the frame, there's no danger that you're going to end up cutting your LiPo strap. So it's just a really small sort of feature, and this frame is full of nifty 3D printed ideas. And this was the thing that really excited me about this frame. You know, not only have we got a light race frame that looks really, really sturdy, but it comes with so many options which are going to make somebody's build a lot easier in terms of the 3D printed stuff. And if you're a kind of racer, you'll probably have a preferred setup, and having 3D printed parts ready, made and ready to print for your preferred setup is just, in my opinion, awesome. So I'm going to take it apart and we'll have a look again at the next option with the canopy on. Right, here it is with the pod on, and god damn is that not a sexy frame. It's absolutely stunning. Now, as per the other 3D printed parts, the pod itself again comes in quite a number of different designs. So again, I've chosen the Axi mount. Again, you can choose it with no mount, with an SMA, with a SMA mount, with a dipole mount, etc., etc. So you can choose however you want it. It's entirely up to yourself. Now, clearly in this configuration, we'll run it with a bottom mounted battery. And the benefit of running one of these 3D pods is they're slightly more aerodynamic. The downside of running these are you lose a little bit of rigidity if you remove the standoffs on top plate. Having said that, the frame still feels really, really strong. The very tiniest little bit of flex, but that's exactly what I want to see, because from past experience, if carbon is too stiff, it tends to become brittle, and when you have an impact it just snaps as opposed to bending slightly. And you won't be able to see, but the carbon looks of a really good quality. The fibres look really tightly compressed, and the cut itself is really, really good. Everything fits perfectly together and locks in as it should do. And as I said, the arms, because they lock together, feel really, really stiff. So I'm really excited about this. When I run mine in 5-inch version, this is probably the way I'm going to run it. I've coveted the TPU race pods for quite some time, since I saw it on the floss frames. And I had a floss a long time ago, but I since gave up on it because you've got to mess around getting them imported from America. They never have spare arms available, and it's just a bit of a pain. The Mod 2 from Rc Addict is also another frame that you can get in the UK, which has a race pod, but I've always kind of shied away from that one, simply because my own personal preference is to have, on frames like this, is to have basically a sandwich plate, as opposed to that frame which just runs the arms along and then the standoffs sit on top. So I've always felt that design was a little bit weaker than it needed to be, although of course that frame is really, really light. In terms of weights, I'm going to put all the weights in the description below. In its current configuration at the moment, it weighs 77 grams. So it'll be a little bit lighter without its without the race pod, because this little bit of carbon is clearly lighter than the TPU. But I think it ranges from between 60 and 75 grams, or thereabouts, without the TPU pod. But as I said, I'll put the weights in the description before. But my honest impression of this frame is I'm absolutely blown away with it. I love all the little details. I love the fact that you can kind of buy it in whatever your own preferred configuration is. I've used Axi antennas before, but they don't last too long unless you have really good protection for them. So that's why I've chosen the Axi mount, because it's a really good antenna, but somewhat fragile, and this should look after it really nicely. As I said, everything's configurable. The arms, by the way, I don't know if I said this in the introduction, these are prototype arms. So we've got 4-inch arms and 3-inch arms, and I think both of these are 3mm. Yeah, they look like they are. And as I said, Chris from Halo Rc just got these cut following my initial inquiries and chatting about 3-inch builds, and he's done 4-inch prototype arms as well. So I'm going to sort of test these and see how I get on. Our initial kind of conversation is, because this is a 5-inch frame, if I put 3-inch arms on it, it's going to be relatively heavy. I don't know the exact weights, but it's not going to be an ultralight 3-inch frame. But if you've seen my previous videos, I really like frames with multiple purposes, and because of the amount of configurations you can get this in, and the fact that you can get GoPro session mounts and GoPro couches and all the rest of it, this nicely feeds into kind of the experimenter within me. So down the line, I'm going to be running this on 3-inch arms, using a GoPro session as before, and probably just racing, and I'm going to be running it on 4-inch arms. And if you've been a subscriber to this channel for some time, you know that 4-inch is one of my great loves. I really like 4-inch quads, and they're not hugely popular, but I think they're absolutely a real treat. They kind of sit nicely between the incredible sort of agility, but ultimately probably slightly lacking precision of a 3-inch, and obviously the ultimate control you've got of a 5-inch, and I think 4-inch is quite often the sweet spot. And I suspect in this particular configuration, because this frame is probably going to weigh maybe 50-55 grams in a 3-inch form, 4-inch is maybe going to be a stronger point for it. But surprisingly, the 360 hobby frames I've been flying with the GoPro and without the GoPro has kind of changed my views on certainly 3-inch quads, because prior to that I've always flown my Zero S3M, which is an incredibly light 27-gram frame, and there's no doubt about it that quad with its 130 grand all up weight minus battery is blindingly fast, but it's also kind of difficult to fly that fast because it's got so much power that you kind of, it flies really well, but it's very hard to be precise. And I've found the 360 hobby frames, which is still really fast, with an all-up weight of about 169 with a GoPro couch, which I tend to leave on. I found that frame flies better for me than the Avant one does, simply because, okay, it's a little bit slower, but ultimately it has a little bit more precision, which might be down to my skills as a pilot or simply a personal preference, but it's kind of changed my thoughts. So if I can get this guy running, whatever it weighs at 50-55 grams with 3-inch arms and also 4-inch arms, then this will probably work really nicely for me. And again, I like frames that you can kind of repurpose and chop and change and try different components on. In terms of how I'll build the 5-inch, I've got a number of thoughts. I kind of like the idea of building this in a way that allows me to swap arm sizes. The one mistake I made when I ordered this is because I've chosen the skinny arms, the race wire is very slightly too wide, albeit it's probably not a deal breaker. But if I'd have chosen the much wider, I think these arms are at 8mm wide, and there are 14mm wide ones as well. If I'd have chosen the 14mm wide arms, this would have been nicer. And my initial idea was to put race wire on each arm and a 20x20 4-in-1 ESC, and then basically just switch arms depending on how the mood took me, and simply have a set of these on each arm with motors pre-attached, and then if I fancied flying 3-inch, I could simply just pop in the 3-inch arm, solder 3 wires, and off I popped. But I don't know if it's going to work, as I said, because of the thickness of the arms. But regardless, Yeah, I really do like this frame. I love the 3D stuff. The cut and finish looks excellent. The TPU pod is just absolutely gorgeous. I think it just looks awesome. Really fast and mean. And even without that, if you want to run a top mounted battery on a race frame, or a bottom mounted battery on a race frame, there's a lot to be said about this guy, and it's pretty good value for money as well. So go out there and check out Halo Rc. Thanks for Chris for answering all my many questions, and kind of my impatient emails as this project was going along. I've been really excited about this frame. I am a freestyle pilot. I'm not a race pilot, but I do love lightweight race quads, simply because of the way that they feel in the air, and because I like tinkering with different motors and different setups. Something like this where I can switch between loads of different modes, top mount, bottom mount, different motor sizes, etc. It's just music to my ears. So if you want a straight up racer, I'd seriously consider it. If you want to sort of mess around between 4-inch, etc., then drop Chris a line. As I said, these arms at the moment are, as far as I'm aware, prototypes. So I'll give him some feedback as to how I get on with them. But I guess somewhere down the line he'll probably release a frame in this size. Whether it's like this or a unibody to save weight, I don't know, but good things. Yeah, really good frame. Really excited about this one. So again, apologies for waffling on, which I tend to do on my video. As I said, my ideal build for this guy would be 20 by 20, and one of the benefits of doing that is I won't have to basically mess around with the flight controller stack on doing this this bolt if I want to switch an arm, because the 20 by 20 sits nicely out of the way, and if I run it 20 by 20 mil stack, I should be able to leave the stack intact if I can get it light enough, whether I'm using 5-inch arms or 3-inch arms. In terms of motors, I'd probably advise most people 2205s or 2206s on this sort of race frame, but it's a really personal preference. There's tons of people winning races out there using massive, 2207 motors, etc., and it's all down to personal preference. Generally speaking, I prefer to use the lightweight motors. These are Hyperlight 2204s, which are on my experimental quad. These are probably a little bit underpowered for something like this, but I would probably say 2205 Brother Hobby, R2s or R4s or 2206s. That sort of motor would be my my dream setup. Halo Rc have actually got their own motors, which I think are a tweaked Brother Hobby R2 in a slightly different kV. I think they're 2500 kV or possibly 2550 kV, which you can buy with the Halo Rc branding. And another thing which I will mention is Halo Rc are importing a really nifty sort of quad finder, which I've pre-ordered, and essentially it's a buzzer but it's a buzzer that has its own self-contained battery. And the way it works is when your battery becomes disconnected or your battery runs out, i.e. you crash your quad and you can't find it, the internal battery in the buzzer sounds, and obviously the buzzer sounds away, and the buzzer's kind of got an emergency mode. So I don't know off the top of my head what it is, but after a number of hours, if you still haven't found it, the buzzer will then go into an emergency mode where it sounds, I think, every sort of 20 or 30 seconds or something like that, and it can do that for up to 2 weeks. So if, like me, and you've lost a quad or two because your battery is disconnected and you couldn't find it, it's definitely something to look at. I think it's about 18 quid, which is really cheap compared to a lot of the things out there, and something I'm definitely going to investigate and install on one of my freestyle quads. So yeah, I think I've covered everything. 5-inch lightweight race frame, My one has 3 and 4 inch arms as well, top or bottom mount, pod or normal top plate, and millions and millions of different 3D options. What more could you ask for? Cheers guys, thanks, bye bye.